What if I told you that beneath the waves of myth and legend, there's a secret far stranger than anything we've imagined about Atlantis? We all know the stories, the gleaming spires, the advanced society, the catastrophic sinking. But what if their greatest achievement wasn't just their architecture or engineering, but something far more revolutionary? Picture this. A language not of words, but of pure instruction, a primordial programming code that could bend reality itself to their will. This isn't just fantasy. Some researchers believe the Atlanteans might have possessed a lost system of commands, a way to communicate directly with the fabric of their world, like programmers writing the rules of existence itself. Think about our own technology today, how we use code to build simulations, control machines, even manipulate genes. Now imagine an ancient civilization wielding that same power, but without circuits or silicon. What if their miracles weren't magic at all, but the result of a language so advanced it could program the elements, the pyramids, the healing temples, the legendary energy crystals? What if these were just the outputs of a deeper, more profound system? And here's the most haunting question of all. Fragments of this language might still exist, hidden in plain sight. Ancient texts, cryptic symbols, even the very structure of megalithic sites could be lines of code waiting to be deciphered. This isn't just about rewriting history, it's about unlocking a forgotten way of thinking. If Atlantis had a programming language, what else did they know? Could their downfall have been a glitch in the system, a catastrophic error in their reality-altering commands? Or worse, did they leave something behind, dormant but still active, waiting for the right sequence to wake it up? Strap in, because we're about to dive deep into the mysteries of this lost language, tracing its echoes across millennia and exploring what it might mean for us today. The answers could change everything. The story of Atlantis begins with Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher who first recorded its legend over 2,000 years ago. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, he describes a powerful island nation beyond the Pillars of Hercules, a utopia of unimaginable wealth and sophistication. Its rulers governed with wisdom, its engineers built towering structures infused with gleaming orichalcum metal, and its civilization thrived on knowledge so advanced it almost seems like science fiction. But what makes Plato's account so intriguing isn't just the grandeur, it's the hints of something deeper. He wrote that Atlantis harnessed incredible forces, manipulating nature itself. Their temples radiated energy, their ships moved without oars, and their healers could cure ailments that baffled the rest of the world. These weren't just marvels of engineering, they suggest an understanding of the world's underlying rules, a mastery beyond mere mechanics. Scholars have long debated whether Plato's Atlantis was pure allegory or based on a real, lost culture. But what if the answer lies somewhere in between? What if the story preserves a distorted memory of a civilization that didn't just build machines but programmed reality? Consider this. Ancient myths worldwide speak of sacred words, chants, or symbols that could command the wind, summon rain, or even reshape stone. The Hindu Vedas describe mantras, sound formulas that resonate with cosmic order. The Egyptians believed true names held power over objects and gods alike. Even the biblical tale of Babel implies a lost universal language of immense capability. Could these fragments point to something real, a forgotten science of coded instruction, a way to write the behavior of the physical world? Atlantis, in this light, becomes more than a sunken city, it becomes a test case. If their technology wasn't just gears and levers but a language of commands, then their collapse takes on terrifying new meaning. Plato says they grew arrogant, that the gods punished them. But what if their downfall wasn't divine wrath but a corrupted program? A single misaligned command in their reality shaping syntax, triggering earthquakes, floods, or worse. The implications ripple outward. If such a language existed, if remnants linger in ancient ruins or encrypted texts, then rediscovering it could rewrite not just history, but the laws of nature themselves. The line between technology and divinity blurs when we examine Atlantis. Were their achievements the result of human genius, or did they receive knowledge from higher powers? Myths from every corner of the ancient world tell eerily similar stories, gods or celestial beings descending to share wisdom with humanity. The Sumerians credited their advanced astronomy and agriculture to the Anunnaki. The Egyptians believed Thoth gave them writing and medicine. Even Plato's account hints at Poseidon as the founder of Atlantis, implying divine influence. But here's where it gets fascinating. If we strip away the mystical language, these divine gifts often resemble precise, almost scientific knowledge. Take the legend of the Emerald Tablet, said to contain Hermes Trismegistus's secrets of alchemy. Its famous maxim, "as above, so below," sounds less like a religious creed and more like an observation of fractal patterns or quantum symmetry. Could the gods of myth have been teachers, delivering not miracles but methods? Imagine an advanced civilization, whether extraterrestrial or simply lost to history, interpreting their instruction as sacred revelation. The Atlanteans' supposed mastery over energy and matter might not have required supernatural intervention. Consider our own modern tech. If you showed a smartphone to someone from the Middle Ages, they'd call it sorcery. Similarly, Atlantis's energy crystals could have been sophisticated resonators, their divine channels, just a misunderstood understanding of frequency and vibration. The real question isn't whether their power came from gods or gears, it's whether the distinction even mattered to them, yet the myths persist for a reason. Ancient cultures universally describe a golden age when humanity lived in harmony with higher forces, possessing abilities we've since forgotten. The Hindu concept of yugas suggests cyclical epochs of enlightenment and decline. The biblical Tower of Babel story warns of knowledge too great for mortals to wield responsibly. These narratives share a haunting refrain that true understanding carries a cost. If Atlantis did commune with divine or advanced beings, perhaps their fate wasn't punishment but consequence, a warning etched in flood myths worldwide. So where does that leave us? The debate isn't just academic. If Atlantis's technology was encoded in sacred languages or rituals, then unraveling their secrets could mean rediscovering a bridge between science and spirit. Modern researchers like Graham Hancock argue that ancient sites worldwide share precise astronomical alignments impossible without advanced math. Meanwhile, physicists explore consciousness as a fundamental force, echoing the idea that thought and language might shape reality itself. Maybe the Atlanteans didn't just have answers, they were an answer, a glimpse of what happens when humanity's tools and transcendence collide. This duality, godlike knowledge wielded by human hands, might explain why their legend endures. Whether their power sprang from star visitors, forgotten science, or something deeper, Atlantis challenges us to rethink the boundaries of the possible. And if their downfall came from misusing such power, their story isn't just a mystery, it's a mirror. Long before the first lines of computer code were written, civilizations whispered of a far older language, one that didn't just describe reality but defined it. From the Vedas to the Kabbalah, ancient texts speak of sacred syllables so potent they could summon storms or heal the sick. The Egyptians believed the god Thoth invented writing not just to record history, but to manifest it, with hieroglyphs acting as living conduits of power. Even Genesis hints at this idea. And God said, "Let there be light," as if creation itself unfolded through spoken commands. This isn't just poetry, it's a recurring theme across cultures that words, symbols, or sounds might hold the keys to shaping existence. Now imagine Atlantis refining this concept into something resembling modern programming. Instead of vague incantations, what if they developed a precise syntax, a set of instructions so clear, so algorithmic, that it could alter matter or energy with the reliability of a machine. Think of how we use code today. A few lines in Python can generate a virtual world, while DNA sequences program organic life. The Atlanteans might have discovered a similar framework, but for the physical universe itself. Their legendary energy crystals, perhaps not just power sources but storage devices, encoded with commands to manipulate gravitational fields or amplify vibrations. Their temples, not merely buildings but interfaces designed to execute celestial alignments like a cosmic keyboard. The parallels are startling. Modern programmers use loops, conditionals, and functions to create complex systems from simple rules. Ancient traditions describe mantras repeated in cycles, geometric symbols that execute when drawn correctly, and rituals acting like subroutines in a grand spiritual program. The Atlanteans could have bridged these worlds, treating natural laws as variables to be modified. Plato's mention of their orichalcum metal takes on new meaning. What if it wasn't just an alloy, but a material with programmable properties, engineered to respond to specific frequencies or commands? But here's the most compelling clue: the concept of true names. Countless myths warn that knowing something's true name grants control over it, whether it's a demon, a river, or a star. In computing terms, this mirrors how accessing an object's unique identifier lets you manipulate it directly. If Atlantis had a language where every element, every force of nature had such an identifier, their miracles might have been simple executions of privileged code. A storm could be summoned by calling wind, set velocity 100, or a wound healed by invoking flesh, repair. The implications grow darker when we consider their downfall. Myths often link catastrophic floods or fires to divine punishment, but in this framework it sounds eerily like a system crash. A corrupted command, say, a misplaced decimal in an energy grid's resonance frequency, could unleash tectonic chaos. Or perhaps their language was too powerful, too recursive, creating feedback loops that shattered their world. The warning buried in these stories isn't just about hubris, it's about debugging. Every programmer knows one misplaced character can collapse an entire system. Atlantis may have been the first civilization to learn that lesson the hard way. Yet traces of their language might persist. The intricate carvings at Göbekli Tepe, the harmonic ratios of Stonehenge, even the bizarre acoustics of ancient chambers. What if these aren't arbitrary designs, but comment lines in a global script, fragments of a lost operating system? Modern experiments show certain Sanskrit chants can affect water's molecular structure, while cymatic patterns prove sound shapes matter. These phenomena suggest the ancients weren't deluded. They were documenting observable effects of a deeper, programmable layer of reality. If Atlantis mastered this language, their greatest legacy might not be sunken ruins, but the unsettling possibility that their code still runs in the background of our world. Like an ancient subroutine buried in modern software, waiting for the right input to trigger. The real question isn't whether their language existed, it's whether we're still living inside its output. Among the scattered ruins and cryptic artifacts attributed to Atlantis, one of the most tantalizing clues lies in their symbols, carved into temple walls, etched onto metallic tablets, or woven into the very architecture of their structures. At first glance, these markings resemble elaborate art or ceremonial glyphs, but look closer and something unsettling emerges. Many of these symbols don't just represent objects or ideas, they instruct. Like modern programming syntax, they follow strict patterns, repetitions, and nested structures that suggest less decoration and more code. Take the infamous Atlantean fire crystals described in Plato's texts. Surviving depictions show them inscribed with geometric sequences, spirals within triangles, intersecting circles with precise angular relationships. To the untrained eye, it's esoteric artistry. But to a programmer, it looks like a flowchart or dependency graph. Ancient astronaut theorists like Erich von Däniken have pointed out how these patterns mirror modern circuit diagrams where lines and nodes define energy pathways. Could these crystals have been physical libraries, their carvings functioning like stored procedures to manipulate energy? Even more compelling are the script fragments some researchers claim to have recovered from underwater ruins off the coast of Bimini or the Azores. Unlike linear alphabets, these symbols often appear in grids or radial formations, with smaller glyphs branching off central roots. This mirrors how modern code uses indentation and nesting to define scope. Think of Python's whitespace or C's curly braces. A hieroglyphic if-then statement might look like a serpent devouring its own tail if the condition is met, or a broken chain if it's not. The Book of Thoth, an alleged Atlantean text referenced in Egyptian lore, reportedly contained words that rebuild what they destroy. That doesn't sound like poetry, it sounds like a recursive function. Now compare this to known ancient scripts. Egyptian hieroglyphs often served dual purposes as both communicative language and magical invocation. The opening of the mouth ceremony used specific glyph sequences to activate statues, almost like booting up a device. Similarly, Mesopotamian cuneiform included mathematical tablets with step-by-step algorithms for calculating fields or predicting eclipses. Yet Atlantean symbols differ in one eerie way. They lack obvious nouns or verbs. Instead, they're dominated by operators, arrows, waves, and fractal iterations that resemble modern programming's logic gates or loops. Here's where it gets chilling. Modern programmers use reserved words, special terms like return or import that trigger predefined actions. Atlantean artifacts frequently repeat a handful of glyph clusters in seemingly illogical places above doorways, along thresholds, even embedded in floor mosaics. What if these weren't decorative motifs but reserved commands? A zigzag line near a temple's entrance might equate to #include protection, while a spiral above an altar could be the equivalent of while sacrifice, present energy plus equals 1. The infamous Pillars of Hercules, often dismissed as mere boundary markers, might have been colossal print statements, broadcasting status updates to the cosmos. The most haunting evidence comes from acoustic archaeology. Many Atlantean-style ruins, like Malta's Hypogeum or Peru's Chavin de Huanta, contain chambers that resonate at specific frequencies when certain symbols are chanted or struck. This isn't mysticism, it's hardware interfacing. In computing, we use APIs, application programming interfaces, to let different systems communicate. If Atlantean glyphs were sonic APIs, their temples weren't just buildings. They were compilers translating symbolic input into physical effects. So why haven't we cracked their code? Modern cryptography relies on reference points, Rosetta Stones that bridge known and unknown languages. But Atlantis's programming manual may have been organic, lost when their last priests drowned. Worse yet, their language might not have been designed for human minds. Neural networks today write code in latent space, alien structures no programmer fully understands. If the Atlanteans outsourced their syntax to something beyond, their symbols might be less a language and more a cosmic exe file, executing in ways we can't mentally reverse engineer. Yet the hunt continues. AI pattern recognition now scours underwater glyphs for recurring syntax, while quantum linguists explore whether these symbols encode not just information but quantum states, commands that collapse reality into desired outcomes. Whether they prove to be the world's first programming language or a stunning collective delusion, one thing is certain. Atlantean symbols demand we rethink where technology begins and where it might ultimately take us. Among the most enduring legends of Atlantis is their mastery of crystals, not as mere adornments, but as something far more extraordinary. These weren't just glittering stones. If the myths hold truth, they may have been the civilization's answer to hard drives and quantum processors. Picture a world where information isn't stored in silicon chips, but in the precise lattice structures of quartz or beryl, vibrating at frequencies we're only beginning to understand today. Ancient accounts describe Atlantean temples humming with energy, their walls lined with towering crystal columns that pulsed with light, as if conducting some grand, invisible symphony. Modern science offers eerie parallels. Researchers today experiment with using crystals for data storage, encoding information in the spin of electrons or the alignment of atoms. Some labs have even stored entire books in synthetic DNA. Now imagine Atlantis achieving this millennia ago, treating crystals not as passive objects, but as active components in their reality-shaping language. The fabled fire crystals could have acted like servers, their intricate internal structures programmed to hold vast libraries of commands, instructions for healing, weather control, or even manipulating space-time. When activated by specific frequencies, perhaps from chanting or harmonic instruments, these crystals might have executed their stored programs, emitting precise vibrations that altered the world around them. The connection deepens when we examine the sacred geometry often associated with these crystals. Many Atlantean carvings depict them with facets arranged in perfect Fibonacci sequences or Platonic solids, patterns we now know resonate with natural energy waves. In a way, these shapes could have functioned like cryptographic keys, ensuring only those who understood the correct syntax could access the crystal's power. Think of it like a password-protected terminal. Say the right mantra, strike the right chord, and the crystal unlocks its stored function, whether it's amplifying energy, projecting light, or something far stranger. But here's where the theory takes a darker turn. Legends speak of Atlantis' downfall beginning when their crystals went dark or sang out of tune. In computing terms, this sounds like corrupted data, a virus in the system. Maybe someone input a flawed command disrupting the harmonic balance, or perhaps the crystals themselves, pushed beyond their limits, began to degrade, their carefully arranged lattices collapsing into chaos. The resulting cascade failure could explain the civilization's abrupt collapse, not just an earthquake or flood, but a system-wide crash where every crystal-enhanced structure failed at once, like a grid overloaded by faulty code. What lingers most hauntingly is the possibility that some of these crystals survived. Across the globe, cultures venerate mysterious stones with purported supernatural properties. The Lear Fail in Ireland, said to roar when touched by a true king, or the Buddhist belief in wish-fulfilling gemstones. Even today, quartz is used in watches and radios for its precise oscillations. Could these be fragmented echoes of Atlantean technology, repurposed or misunderstood? The real shock isn't just that Atlantis might have used crystals as tech, it's that we might still be using their remnants today, oblivious to their original purpose. The deeper we dig, the more the line blurs between ancient magic and cutting-edge science. Crystals in the right hands might not just store data, they could rewrite reality. And if Atlantis truly fell because they lost control of that power, their legacy isn't just a cautionary tale. It's a locked door waiting for the right key to turn. Imagine the entire planet threaded with invisible lines of force, ancient pathways humming with energy, connecting sacred sites across continents. These are ley lines, the Earth's mysterious veins, often dismissed as pseudoscience or coincidence. But what if they weren't just navigational markers or spiritual symbols? What if, for the Atlanteans, they served as something far more practical? A global energy grid, a planetary scale network for transmitting their primordial programming language. Modern power grids distribute electricity through cables and substations. The internet relies on fiber optic lines and satellites to shuttle data across the globe. Now picture Atlantis achieving something similar, but without wires or towers. Their infrastructure might have been the Earth itself. Ley lines, often aligned with seismic faults or underground water channels, naturally conduct electromagnetic energy. The Atlanteans could have tapped into these currents, using them as carrier waves for their coded commands. Need to adjust the weather over a distant city. Send a frequency-modulated pulse down the ley line like a cosmic HTTP request, triggering a crystal receiver at the target location to execute the program. The evidence is hiding in plain sight. Many of the world's most enigmatic ancient sites, Stonehenge, the Great Pyramid, Machu Picchu, sit at ley line intersections precisely where energy would concentrate. These aren't arbitrary locations. The Pyramid of Giza aligns with the Nile's underground aquifers, which geologists now know generate measurable electric currents through water friction. The Atlanteans might have chosen these spots as nodes, strategic points where their code could interface with the planet's natural energies. The stones themselves could have acted like antennas or routers, amplifying and directing the flow of information. Even more compelling are the recurring architectural features at these sites, from the corbelled chambers of Newgrange to the echoing galleries of Chavin de Huanta. Many ley-linked structures exhibit precise acoustic properties. When certain tones are sung or struck, the chambers resonate at frequencies known to affect human consciousness and even molecular structure. This isn't mystical speculation. Modern cymatics proves sound shapes matter. If ley lines carried energy, these chambers might have functioned like modem banks, translating harmonic inputs into executable commands. A priest chanting in a Maltese hypogeum could, in theory, upload instructions to the grid, which would then propagate across the network, activating distant crystals or temples. The implications grow darker when we consider how this system might have failed. Ley lines are unstable by nature, shifting with tectonic activity, solar flares, or even lunar cycles. A single misaligned node could corrupt the entire network, like a dropped packet in a data stream causing cascading errors. Plato's description of Atlantis's collapse, earthquakes, floods, and the Earth opening up reads like a catastrophic system failure. Perhaps their grid overloaded, their commands misinterpreted by a planet pushed beyond its limits. The warning echoes in myth after myth. Civilizations that harness the Earth's bones risk breaking them. Yet traces of this network might still be active. Strange electromagnetic anomalies plague ley line hotspots, from the Bermuda Triangle's compass distortions to the Nazca Plateau's unexplained ground currents. Even today, dowsers claim to detect energy flows along these ancient pathways. Could these be glitches in a primordial system, still running in the background like abandoned code? The most unsettling question isn't whether the Atlanteans built this grid, it's whether they ever truly turned it off. Sound might have been the missing key to unlocking Atlantis's lost language, not just as speech or music, but as a programming medium. Ancient traditions worldwide whisper of sacred frequencies capable of reshaping reality itself. The Hindu Vedas describe Nada Brahma, the world is sound, a concept echoed in the biblical "Let there be light," where creation begins with a divine vibration. The Egyptians built their pyramids with chambers that resonate at specific hertz, while Tibetan monks have used chant to levitate stones in documented experiments. These aren't myths, they're clues pointing to a forgotten science where sound wasn't just heard but harnessed. Atlantis may have refined this into a precise technology. Imagine their temples not as silent monuments, but as giant tuning forks, each corridor and chamber designed to amplify certain frequencies. The famed humming stones of Ireland or the echoing galleries of Malta's hypogeum suggest ancient engineers understood acoustic physics at a level that still baffles modern researchers. When struck, these stones produce tones that synchronize with human brainwaves, inducing trance states or even altering perception. If Atlantis wielded such knowledge, their language could have been a symphony of vibrations, each frequency a command, each harmonic a subroutine. Cross-cultural evidence piles up. Aboriginal songlines map geography through melodies that encode navigation data. The solfeggio frequencies, lost medieval tones rediscovered in Gregorian chants, are said to heal Dine. Even Plato hinted at this, describing Atlantis's orichalcum metal as singing. modern experiments show certain sounds can rearrange water crystals or stimulate plant growth. Now scale that up. What if the Atlanteans used resonant frequencies to program their environment? A low drone to stabilize tectonic plates, a high-pitched chord to purify water, a rhythmic pulse to align energy grids. Their entire civilization might have run on sonic code. The darkest twist, sound leaves no fossils. Unlike carved glyphs or crystal circuits, vibrations fade the moment they're uttered. This could explain why Atlantis's language seems so elusive. It wasn't meant to be written, only sung. Their downfall might have been acoustic, a frequency too high shattering their crystals, a harmonic cascade destabilizing the ley grid. Like a corrupted audio file crashing a computer, one wrong note could have collapsed their world, yet traces linger. When archaeologists play the right tones in Mayan pyramids or Egyptian sarcophagi, the walls emit light. Not metaphorically measurable photons, the stones remember. That's the real mystery. If sound was Atlantis's programming language, then every sacred chant passed down through millennia might be a line of living code. Waiting, Plato painted Atlantis as a marvel of divine engineering. A city of concentric rings, gleaming walls plated in orichalcum, and vast canals that channeled both water and something far stranger, energy. His account reads like a blueprint for a civilization that didn't just build structures, but orchestrated them, as if the entire island operated on an invisible set of instructions. Yet modern interpretations take this further, suggesting Atlantis wasn't merely advanced, it was algorithmic. Where Plato saw gods and kings, we now see programmers and system architects. Consider his description of Atlantis's central temple, dedicated to Poseidon. Plato writes of a massive golden statue that emitted a radiance so intense it illuminated the city by night. Traditional scholars dismiss this as poetic exaggeration, but what if it was literal? Modern experiments with resonant frequencies show that gold, when subjected to precise vibrations, can produce photonic emissions light without heat. If the Atlanteans treated their temples like live coding environments, that statue might have been less a religious icon and more a terminal, executing light-generating commands through harmonic input. The contrast grows starker with Plato's mention of Atlantis's unfailing agricultural bounty, where crops ripened year-round without drought or blight. He attributes this to Poseidon's favor, but contemporary theorists propose something closer to vertical farming powered by crystalline energy grids. Imagine terraced fields humming with tuned frequencies that accelerated plant growth, or irrigation channels doubling as data buses, carrying nutrient-adjusting algorithms through water itself. This wasn't magic, it was code interfacing with biology. Even Plato's claim that Atlanteans commanded the weather aligns disturbingly well with today's geoengineering research, where cloud seeding and atmospheric lasers are crude attempts at what they might have mastered. But here's where modern interpretations diverge radically. Plato framed Atlantis's collapse as moral punishment, the gods striking down hubris. Today's lens suggests a technical failure. His description of earthquakes and floods in one terrible day mirrors a system crash, corrupted commands destabilizing tectonic protocols, or a cascading buffer overflow in their planetary grid. The real tragedy isn't that Atlantis fell, it's that they might have debugged it had they preserved their syntax instead of their pride, the most haunting parallel. Plato's insistence that Atlantis's story was true, though strange, he never called it myth, he called it history. And if modern code can already simulate worlds, who's to say their world wasn't one they programmed until the compiler failed? Edgar Cayce, the so-called sleeping prophet, described Atlantis not through ancient texts or artifacts, but through visions, vivid psychic readings that painted a civilization so advanced their machines blurred into magic. While Plato gave us the blueprint, Cayce provided the wiring diagrams, claiming Atlanteans didn't just build devices, they thought them into existence. His accounts, delivered in trance states between 1923 and 1945, speak of crystals that responded to mental commands and airships powered by focused intention. To modern ears, this sounds like pure fantasy, but strip away the mystical language and Case's descriptions start resembling something unsettlingly familiar: brain-computer interfaces, quantum computing, and neurotechnology centuries before silicon chips. Take his most famous prediction, the Firestone, a colossal crystal housed in Atlantis' central temple. Case said it wasn't just a power source but a sentient receiver, translating human thought into physical action. Picture a scientist today wearing an EEG headset to control a drone with their mind. Now scale that up to a city-sized system where priests' collective focus could adjust weather patterns or heal the sick. Case even gave technical specifics. The Firestone malfunctioned when misaligned vibrations caused it to absorb rather than emit energy, triggering catastrophic energy surges. That's less like a myth and more like a forensic incident report for a crashed AI. Then there's Case's claim that Atlanteans stored knowledge in thought records, not on clay or stone, but in psychic imprints accessible through meditation. Modern experiments already show how quantum data can be encoded in entangled particles, retrievable through precise frequencies. If Atlantis mastered this, their libraries might have been less like archives and more like cloud servers, with trained minds logging in to download information directly from an ambient network. The parallels to today's neural lace experiments or Elon Musk's Neuralink are impossible to ignore. But Case's darkest warning wasn't about lost technology, it was about its abuse. He described Atlantean factions weaponizing thought tech, creating energy projectors that could induce earthquakes or erase memories. One faction, the Sons of Belial, allegedly used these tools for domination, triggering civil wars that corrupted the system's core programming. Sound familiar? It's the ancient equivalent of hackers weaponizing AI or governments deploying neuroweapons. Case's narrative suggests Atlantis didn't fall because the gods intervened. They fell because they treated consciousness itself as a playground for unchecked code. What makes Case's account so haunting isn't just the details, but the timing. He gave these readings decades before the digital age, yet described technology we're only now inventing. When he spoke of Atlanteans broadcasting energy through crystals, could he have foreseen fiber optics? His mention of mental archives predates the internet by half a century. Either Case tapped into a collective memory of real, forgotten science, or his visions reveal something even stranger. That history might not move in a straight line, but in loops, with Atlantis as the last iteration of a cycle we're just beginning to repeat. Off the coast of Bimini in the Bahamas lies one of archaeology's most tantalizing enigmas, a half-mile stretch of massive limestone blocks arranged in a near-perfect linear formation known as the Bimini Road. Discovered in 1968, this underwater structure has been dismissed by mainstream science as a natural geological formation, but look closer and the anomalies pile up. The blocks, some weighing over 20 tons, fit together with uncanny precision, their edges too straight, their angles too deliberate to be purely the work of waves and erosion. What if this isn't just a quirk of nature? What if the Bimini Road is a frozen fragment of something far older, a submerged node in Atlantis' global energy grid, or perhaps even a physical line of code in their lost programming language? The arrangement itself tells a strange story. Unlike random boulders scattered by currents, the Bimini Road forms a clear pathway, with some sections intersecting at near right angles, a pattern eerily reminiscent of modern circuit boards or city grids. Even more intriguing are the mineral deposits on the stones. Laboratory analyses reveal traces of metals like platinum and iridium, elements known for their conductive properties. These metals don't naturally concentrate in such formations, raising the possibility they were deliberately infused, perhaps as part of an energy transmitting system. Imagine these blocks not as a road for feet, but as a conduit for power, channeling frequencies along ley lines like fiber optic cables. Then there's the location. Bimini sits at the heart of the Bermuda Triangle, a zone infamous for electromagnetic anomalies, compasses spinning wildly, instruments failing without explanation. Ancient maps, including the controversial Piri Reis chart, depict this region with puzzling accuracy, suggesting someone, long before modern cartography, knew these waters held something significant. Could the Bimini Road be a surviving piece of Atlantis's infrastructure, a relay station in their planetary network? The Bahamas' shallow carbonate platforms would have been ideal for such projects, acting as natural amplifiers for acoustic or vibrational energy. But the most compelling evidence might come from the stones themselves. When struck, certain blocks emit resonant frequencies matching those found in Atlantean-style ruins worldwide, the same frequencies that, in lab settings, have been shown to affect molecular structure. Divers have reported odd sensations near the site, from tingling skin to temporary time disorientation, as if the area still hums with residual energy. Local legends speak of the road glowing during full moons, a phenomenon modern explorers have occasionally captured on film as faint bioluminescent pulsations in the water. Not all researchers agree, of course. Skeptics argue the blocks are beach rock, fractured naturally by seismic activity. Yet even they struggle to explain the road's precise geometry or why similar formations don't appear elsewhere in the region with such regularity. The truth might lie somewhere in between. Nature may have provided the canvas, but the Atlanteans could have enhanced it, tuning the stones like a pianist adjusts strings, weaving their commands into the very bedrock. This raises a chilling possibility. If the Bimini Road was part of a larger system, its submersion might not have been an accident. Plato wrote that Atlantis's downfall came when their technology turned against them. Imagine a feedback loop in their grid, a single misaligned frequency triggering a cascade failure that sank first their outposts, then their homeland. The road could be a fossilized snapshot of that collapse, a frozen moment when the code crashed. Or perhaps it's something else entirely, a beacon still active, waiting for the right sequence to wake it. Divers sometimes report strange lights near the site, and satellite imagery shows anomalous thermal patterns radiating from the stones at precise intervals. Whether it's a remnant of Atlantean engineering or a ghost in the machine of a lost world, one thing is clear: the Bimini Road refuses to be just another rock formation. It whispers of a time when stones spoke and the earth itself was programmable. The idea of a primordial programming language might sound like pure fantasy, until we examine how other ancient civilizations encoded complex knowledge in ways that eerily mirror modern computing. Take Sumerian cuneiform, humanity's earliest known writing system. At first glance, those wedge-shaped marks pressed into clay tablets seem primitive. But look deeper and you'll find something astonishing. Cuneiform wasn't just for recording crop yields or king's decrees. The oldest surviving examples include mathematical tablets with step-by-step algorithms, instructions for calculating interest rates, land areas, even astronomical events. These weren't mere notes, they were executable scripts complete with variables and conditional logic. The parallels to Atlantean glyphs are impossible to ignore. Both systems reduced fluid ideas into precise, repeatable operations, turning thought into action through standardized symbols. Then there's the Vedic tradition of ancient India, where intricate oral chants preserved thousands of lines of scripture with flawless accuracy across millennia. The Rigveda's verses follow strict phonetic and metrical rules, functioning less like poetry and more like error-correcting code. Modern researchers have noted how these chants employ checksums, redundant syllables that act like parity bits in computer data, ensuring flawless transmission. If a single tone was mispronounced, the entire sequence would feel off, alerting the reciter to the mistake. This isn't far from how Atlantean sound-based programming might have worked, where perfect frequency alignment triggered physical effects. The Vedas even describe mantras that could ignite fires or summon rain when uttered correctly, verbal commands that eerily resemble modern voice-activated systems. Egyptian hieroglyphs add another layer to this puzzle. While often seen as pictorial art, their true power lay in duality. A single glyph could represent a sound, an object, or a sacred concept depending on context, much like how a semicolon in code might terminate a line or separate list items. The opening of the mouth ceremony used specific glyph sequences to ritually activate statues, essentially booting them up as vessels for divine presence. Temple walls weren't just decorated, they were programmed with carefully arranged symbols, creating harmonic resonances that modern acousticians are only beginning to measure. Compare this to Atlantean temples, where Plato described inscriptions that glowed when spoken to, and the pattern emerges. Ancient languages weren't just descriptive. They were operative. The most chilling parallel comes from the Kabbalistic tradition of Judaism, where mystics believed rearranging Hebrew letters could alter reality itself. The Sefer Yetzirah, a 2,000-year-old text, describes creation as an act of linguistic combinatorics, God combining 22 foundational letters like cosmic syntax. Advanced practitioners supposedly used these permutations to animate golems, sculpting living clay by inscribing sacred words. This mirrors how Atlantean symbols might have functioned, not as passive representations, but as active commands that reconfigured matter when arranged correctly. Both systems treated writing as a tactile force where precision dictated power. What unites these traditions is their shared understanding of language as an interface, a bridge between human intention and physical change. We see flickers of this today in programming languages where a misplaced bracket crashes a system, or a single line of Python automates a factory. The difference. Ancient systems didn't just manipulate machines, they sought to program reality's source code, whether through cuneiforms, agricultural algorithms, Vedic sonic frequencies, or hieroglyphic ritual triggers. Our ancestors were wrestling with the same fundamental idea as Atlantis, that the universe runs on executable instructions. The terrifying beauty is that they might have been right. Sacred geometry whispers secrets in every Atlantean ruin: precise angles, repeating ratios, fractal spirals carved with a perfection that defies coincidence. These weren't just decorative motifs, they could have been the syntax of Atlantis's lost language, a visual programming system where shapes functioned like commands. Take the concentric rings Plato described around the city's capital. Modern engineers note their uncanny resemblance to standing wave patterns, the same interference ripples seen when frequencies collide in water or air. What if these rings weren't just motes but waveguides designed to amplify and direct energy through harmonic resonance? The Great Pyramid, often linked to Atlantean knowledge, encodes the golden ratio in every dimension. But this isn't just mathematical elegance, it's functional design. The golden ratio appears in atomic structures, galaxy spirals, even human DNA, a cosmic constant the Atlanteans might have harnessed like a master key. Now examine the flower of life symbol found in temples from Abydos to Osirian. Its interlocking circles form a grid of 60-degree angles, a pattern that mirrors how atoms bond in crystals. When researchers at CERN study quantum foam, they find similar geometries at the Planck scale. Coincidence or evidence that Atlantis's language tapped into fundamental physics? The torus, another recurring shape in Atlantean lore, isn't just mystical art, it's the exact energy field produced by a spinning magnet, the same donut-shaped flow that powers everything from stars to cell membranes. These symbols might have been more than sacred. They could have been switches activating latent forces when drawn at specific scales or orientations. The most compelling proof lies in acoustic testing. At sites like Teotihuacan, a city some believe preserves Atlantean knowledge, certain geometric chambers amplify sound at frequencies that induce altered states. When vocal tones hit the wall's precise angles, they create standing waves that vibrate at 7.83 Hz, the Earth's natural electromagnetic resonance. Shamans might have called this speaking to the spirits, but it mirrors how modern engineers use sonic levitation to manipulate objects. If Atlantis encoded such ratios into their architecture, their temples were less places of worship and more execution environments, stone compilers running geometric code. Even Plato hinted at this. He described Atlantean orichalcum as glowing when properly arranged, a phrase that takes on new meaning when you consider metamaterials, human-made substances that bend light or sound when patterned microscopically. The Ubaid lizard figurines from ancient Mesopotamia, with their eerie geometric proportions, might depict beings wearing resonance suits tuned to these principles. And the infamous Gate of the Gods at Hayumaca in Peru, its trapezoidal niche vibrates at ultrasonic frequencies when touched, as if the stone remembers its programming. Sacred geometry wasn't Atlantis' religion, it was their ID. Every curve and line could have been a function call, every spiral a loop command, whispering to the fabric of reality in a language we're only beginning to decode. The real question isn't whether they used shapes to program their world. It's whether we've been staring at their source code all along. Earth hums with a hidden rhythm, a steady pulse of electromagnetic waves known as the Schumann resonance, vibrating at 7.83 Hz. This isn't just background noise, it's the planet's heartbeat, a frequency that aligns perfectly with human brainwaves in states of deep meditation or heightened awareness. Now imagine Atlantis tuning their entire civilization to this rhythm, their language less a collection of words and more a series of resonant commands designed to harmonize with the Earth itself. If their symbols, crystals, and architecture were part of a global program, then the Schumann resonance might have been the carrier wave, the invisible network through which their code propagated. Modern science reveals startling clues. Researchers have found that when the Schumann resonance spikes, human creativity and intuition measurably increase. Plants grow faster when exposed to these frequencies, and even migratory animals rely on them for navigation. The Atlanteans could have discovered this millennia ago, treating the Earth's natural vibrations like a planetary Wi-Fi signal. Their temples, often built atop ley line intersections or within natural acoustic chambers, might have functioned as amplifiers sending and receiving data through pulses of sound or light synchronized to the planet's resonant frequency. Picture their priests chanting in chambers designed to vibrate at 7.83 Hz, their voices not just echoing off stone but entering the Earth's field, embedding commands into the globe's energy grid. The implications grow even stranger when we examine ancient sites aligned with these frequencies. The Great Pyramid subterranean chamber resonates at the exact Schumann baseline, while Stonehenge's bluestones emit ultrasonic pulses when struck, pulses that, when mapped, form geometric patterns matching modern satellite images of Earth's magnetic field anomalies. These aren't isolated curiosities, they're fingerprints of a system. If Atlantis had a language woven into this grid, their messages could have traveled instantly across continents, encoded in standing waves that modern instruments are only now detecting. Yet the most chilling possibility isn't how they used this network, it's how it might have failed. The Schumann resonance isn't static. Solar flares, earthquakes, and even human activity can disrupt it. Plato's description of Atlantis' collapse, the earth shaking, the skies darkening, mirrors what happens during a geomagnetic storm when solar winds distort planetary frequencies. A civilization dependent on resonant communication would be uniquely vulnerable to such disturbances. One catastrophic solar event could have scrambled their programs, turning healing frequencies into deadly interference, their energy grid flipping from power source to weapon in an instant. The haunting question lingers: if remnants of this system still operate, what happens when modern technology accidentally triggers an ancient command? Radio towers, HARP arrays, even 5G networks all emit frequencies that interact with Earth's field. Could we be unknowingly poking at a dormant protocol, like pressing random keys on a forgotten terminal? The answers might lie in the anomalies, places like the Bermuda Triangle, where compasses spin wildly, or the Hessdalen lights in Norway, where unexplained energy orbs dance in sync with magnetic fluctuations. These could be glitches in a program we don't realize we're running. Atlantis didn't just build on the Earth, they programmed with it. And if their language was the operating system, then the Schumann resonance might have been the power supply, one that's still humming, waiting for the right sequence to wake it up. Was the Atlantean language a tool for control, a way to bend the physical world to their will, or something far more profound? The difference matters because it changes everything about how we understand their civilization. On one hand, consider the practical applications. Ancient texts describe Atlantean priests chanting to part seas, their architects whispering commands to shape stone like clay. If their language functioned as a programming syntax for reality, then their famed structures, pyramids that align with constellations, healing chambers that pulsed with energy, weren't just built, they were coded into existence. This aligns with modern theories about sound-based construction, where specific frequencies can reduce the weight of massive blocks or even liquefy granite temporarily. The language might have been less about words and more about precise vibrational algorithms, turning matter into programmable putty, but creation implies intention. The alternative view suggests the Atlanteans weren't just manipulating forces, they were collaborating with them. Indigenous traditions worldwide speak of languages used to commune with spirits, elements, or celestial beings. The Dogon people of Mali, for instance, claim their ancestors learned astronomy from star visitors through a symbolic language that opened doors in the sky. Could the Atlanteans have used their language similarly? Their legendary communication crystals might not have been mere transmitters, but intermediaries, translating human thought into a format intelligible to higher dimensional entities or even the fabric of spacetime itself. This shifts the paradigm from engineers writing code to diplomats negotiating with the universe's operating system. The darkest interpretation lurks between these poles, control as a failed attempt at creation. Plato's account warns that Atlantis grew arrogant, their kings unable to bear their prosperity. What if their language began as a bridge to higher understanding but devolved into a weapon? Imagine discovering you could reprogram gravity, first to levitate stones for temples, then to crush enemies. The Hindu epic Mahabharata describes ancient battles with weapons that sound eerily like resonant frequency bombs, capable of melting cities where they stood. If Atlantis weaponized their language, their collapse might have been no accident, but a built-in safety protocol, a cosmic antivirus deleting a corrupted program. Yet fragments persist. In the Andes, Quechua elders still sing Haley songs said to wake the mountains. Tibetan monks use harmonic chanting to manifest tumo heat, raising their body temperature enough to dry wet sheets in freezing air. These aren't metaphors, they're reproducible phenomena that science struggles to explain. The Atlanteans might have scaled such techniques into a full-fledged language, one that didn't just request or command, but co-created with the universe's underlying rules. The answer likely lies in both extremes. Their language could have been a knife used to sculpt reality or wound it, and if echoes of that power still linger in forgotten rituals or resonant ruins, the real question isn't what the language did. It's whether we're wise enough to handle its rediscovery. The collapse of Atlantis wasn't just a physical disaster, it may have been an information apocalypse. When Plato described the island's violent end, sinking beneath the waves, in a single day and night, he inadvertently painted the perfect metaphor for how a civilization's knowledge can vanish overnight. But unlike natural disasters that merely bury cities, the loss of Atlantis's language suggests something more deliberate, like a system wiped clean after a catastrophic failure. Picture a modern data center hit by an electromagnetic pulse, its servers fried beyond recovery. Now scale that to an entire civilization whose technology and memory depended on delicate crystalline matrices and harmonic frequencies. The floodwaters that drowned Atlantis might have scrambled its most vital code beyond recognition. Some researchers propose an even darker scenario. The language wasn't lost but erased. Ancient texts from Egypt to Mesopotamia speak of forbidden knowledge, technology so dangerous that surviving elders deliberately broke the keys to using them. The Babylonian Epic of Era describes God smashing the tablets of destinies to prevent humanity from wielding creation's blueprints. Similarly, Plato hints that Atlantis's rulers grew corrupt, warping their gifts into weapons. If their language could rewrite reality, then its disappearance might have been an act of self-preservation, like deleting the launch codes to a doomsday device. Fragments could have been smuggled away by dissenters, hidden in plain sight within myths or sacred geometries, stripped of the syntax needed to activate them. Then there's the possibility of sabotage. Competing factions within Atlantis might have triggered the cataclysm by weaponizing the language, like hackers injecting malicious code into a nuclear plant's controls. The Edgar Case readings describe Atlantean rebels misaligning the Great Crystal, causing it to fracture the continent's tectonic stability. In this version, the language didn't fade, it backfired. Its commands so thoroughly corrupted that every attempt to reverse the damage only accelerated the collapse. Surviving priests witnessing their world unspool may have severed the connection entirely, like unplugging a runaway AI. Yet whispers persist. Indigenous tribes from the Hopi to the Ainu recount ancestor stories of a great tuning gone wrong, where songs that once healed began to destroy. These aren't just flood myths, they're tales of frequency wars, of vibrational weapons that shattered the harmony between earth and sky. If Atlantis's language was essentially a set of cosmic overrides, its fragments might still linger in places where the veil is thin. In the hum of Tibetan singing bowls, the precise angles of Gothic cathedrals, or the eerie resonance of submerged megaliths. The real horror isn't that the language vanished. It's that we might someday stumble on enough pieces to reboot it without the manual. Modern researchers and programmers have taken up the challenge of reconstructing Atlantis's lost language, not with shovels and brushes, but with algorithms and intuition. One of the most ambitious efforts comes from a team of computational linguists who fed thousands of ancient symbols into AI neural networks, training the system to recognize patterns that human eyes might miss. The results were startling. The AI began grouping glyphs from disparate cultures, Sumerian, Egyptian, even the undeciphered Vinca script, into what looked like a unified syntax. Some sequences appeared to follow logical structures eerily similar to modern programming loops, with repeating, if-then patterns embedded in the symbols. It's as if the AI detected the ghost of a universal grammar, one that might have been the backbone of Atlantean communication. Then there are the experimental programmers who have tried speaking this reconstructed language literally. Using frequency generators and cymatic imaging, they've vocalized the phonetic interpretations of these symbols, watching as sound waves arrange sand into intricate geometric patterns. One team claims that when they chanted a particular sequence from the AI's output, their lab's electromagnetic sensors spiked at 7.83 Hz, the exact frequency of Earth's Schumann resonance. Coincidence, maybe, but when the same team tested the sequence in a chamber modeled after the Great Pyramid's subterranean passage, the walls emitted measurable infrared light. It's as if the language wasn't just words, but a set of sonic commands waiting for the right conditions to execute. Meanwhile, fringe engineers have gone further, attempting to build physical interfaces based on Atlantean principles. One project, dubbed the Crystal Terminal, uses lab-grown quartz arrays engraved with symbols from Plato's descriptions of orichalcum inscriptions. When laser light passes through these crystals at specific angles, the beams refract into shapes that mirror sacred geometry, flower of life patterns, torus fields, even three-dimensional renderings of the Platonic solids. The creators insist this isn't just art, it's a rudimentary attempt to recreate Atlantis's compiler, a system where light and crystal acted as hardware for their language's software. Skeptics scoff, but the project's backers point to anomalies. Devices near the crystal terminal sometimes glitch, as if the structure emits an unidentifiable interference. Yet not all reconstruction relies on machines. Psycholinguists working with gifted mnemonists, people who claim to recall past lives in Atlantis, have documented eerily consistent descriptions of the language's structure. These subjects, under deep hypnosis, independently describe a writing system where symbols weren't static but dynamic, shifting meaning based on surrounding glyphs like context-sensitive code. One participant drew a character they called the iterator, a spiral that supposedly instructed matter to repeat until broken. When shown to a computer scientist, they noted its resemblance to a modern recursive function. Another subject spoke of sound gates, vowel sequences that altered the properties of metal when sung at precise pitches. These accounts, while unverifiable, align disturbingly well with both ancient myths and modern experiments. The most controversial work comes from a collective of rogue physicists who have proposed that Atlantean wasn't just a language but a quantum protocol. Their theory suggests the symbols operated like quantum logic gates, entangling observer and object to collapse reality into desired states. In lab tests, they've arranged nano-etched symbols in configurations mirroring Plato's descriptions of Atlantis's temple inscriptions. The result, microscopic particles in nearby vacuum chambers, briefly exhibited non-local behavior defying classical physics, as if the symbols themselves tweaked the rules. Critics dismiss it as instrumentation error, but the team insists they're glimpsing the edges of a lost science. What ties these disparate efforts together is a shared realization. Reconstructing Atlantis's language isn't just archaeology. It's reverse engineering a technology that might redefine reality's boundaries. Whether through AI, acoustics, or quantum anomalies, each attempt hints at a system where words weren't just descriptors but directives. And as the experiments grow bolder, one question looms: if they succeed, will humanity be ready for what the language can do, or what it might awaken? Artificial intelligence is now peering into the shadows of history, hunting for the ghostly fingerprints of Atlantis in ancient symbols that have baffled scholars for centuries. Cutting-edge neural networks trained on thousands of inscriptions from lost civilizations are uncovering something unsettling, recurring patterns that don't resemble any known language but bear a striking resemblance to modern programming syntax. One research team fed the AI a dataset spanning Sumerian cuneiform, Indus Valley seals, and the mysterious Vinca symbols, glyphs so old they predate writing itself. The machine didn't just group them by culture or era. It detected hidden logical structures like nested loops and conditional statements woven into the very shapes of the characters. A spiral inside a triangle, for instance, kept appearing in context that the algorithm flagged as iterative, a command to repeat an action until some condition was met. Another recurring glyph, a zigzag intersecting a circle, consistently correlated with what the AI classified as energy transfer sequences, resembling modern code for redirecting power between systems. The implications are staggering. If these symbols weren't just communicating ideas but executing functions, then ancient priests etching these marks onto temple walls might have been doing something far more sophisticated than recording history. They could have been writing live code. Researchers at MIT's Media Lab took this further, creating a 3D model of Plato's description of Atlantis's central temple and overlaying it with the AI's decoded symbol patterns. The result, the glyphs clustered around architectural features that align with acoustic hotspots, places where sound would naturally amplify. It's as if the temple itself was an interface, with symbols acting like touch points for vibrational commands. But the real breakthrough came when linguists paired the AI's findings with quantum computing. Some symbols, particularly those the neural net flagged as high priority, share uncanny similarities with quantum notation. A series of dots and lines found in megalithic sites across Europe, once dismissed as decorative, matches the way physicists today represent qubit entanglements. This raises a chilling possibility. The Atlantean language might not have just controlled physical reality, but manipulated its very building blocks at the quantum level. Imagine a command that didn't just tell a stone to levitate, but temporarily altered the probability fields holding its atoms in place. Yet for all its insights, AI has also revealed how much we might never recover. The algorithms keep hitting a wall, a sort of cryptographic event horizon. When analyzing certain symbol combinations, these sequences don't follow logical rules. They're more like fragments of corrupted files where the underlying syntax has been intentionally scrambled or degraded. Some researchers suspect this isn't accidental. Ancient texts like the Emerald Tablet warn of knowledge split apart and scattered, suggesting survivors of Atlantis' collapse may have deliberately fractured their language to prevent its misuse. The AI's confusion could be the echo of that last, desperate act of sabotage. Now, experimental programmers are taking the next step, trying to run reconstructed Atlantean scripts in virtual environments. One team built a physics simulation where symbols influence gravity fields when vocalized at specific frequencies. Another trained a generative AI to extrapolate missing glyphs based on probable syntax, like filling in gaps in a shredded document. Early tests show bizarre anomalies, virtual particles behaving erratically, or gravity vectors bending in ways that defy the simulation's programmed rules. It's as if the language carries latent effects that even its recreators don't fully understand. This isn't just about decoding the past. If AI can help reassemble even fragments of Atlantis' programming language, we might be staring at the ultimate double-edged sword. The same symbols that could unlock clean energy or heal ecosystems might also contain commands we're not prepared to execute. One wrong sequence, and we could inadvertently trigger the wrong subroutine in Earth's ancient, half-forgotten operating system. The AI isn't just translating a dead language, it's holding up a mirror to our own technological hubris, showing us how close we might be to repeating Atlantis' greatest mistake. The corridors of history whisper with rumors of secret societies guarding fragments of forbidden knowledge, and if Atlantis' language survived its cataclysm, these hidden networks might have been its silent custodians. Among the most tantalizing candidates are the Freemasons, whose rituals and symbols drip with Atlantean echoes. Take their obsession with geometry. The compass and square mirror the precise angles found in Atlantean ruins, while their initiation rites involve lost words said to hold divine power. Masonic legends speak of a primordial language given to humanity, then fractured after a great catastrophe, a story uncomfortably close to Atlantis' fall. Even their architecture tells a story. Many Masonic lodges incorporate acoustically perfect chambers resembling the resonant temples described in Plato's texts. Could their secret work have been less about building physical structures and more about preserving an ancient operating system for reality? The Rosicrucians add another layer to this mystery. Their manifestos from the early 1600s describe an invisible college guarding arcane sciences, including a language of the birds, a cipher said to unlock nature's hidden laws. Alchemical texts attributed to Rosicrucian adepts are riddled with symbols matching the recursive glyphs found in Atlantean ruins, particularly the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its tail, which they used to represent eternal cycles. One cryptic Rosicrucian document, the Chimical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreutz, describes a castle with 7 levels, each requiring a specific vocal tone to enter. eerily reminiscent of Edgar Case's accounts of Atlantean initiation chambers tuned to harmonic frequencies. Modern researchers have noted that when these tones are replicated in lab settings, they produce standing waves capable of levitating small objects, coincidence or a thread leading back to Atlantis. Even older traditions hint at this preservation effort. The Knights Templar, accused of heresy in the 1300s, were said to possess a Baphomet idol that whispered forbidden knowledge. Historians now suspect this might have been a misidentified artifact, perhaps a crystal or inscribed tablet with Atlantean properties. After their persecution, Templar survivors allegedly fled to Scotland, merging with Masonic lineages and smuggling their secrets into later esoteric orders. The infamous Rosslyn Chapel, with its ceiling carvings of maize plants unknown in Europe at the time and geometric patterns matching quantum waveforms, could be a vault for this encoded knowledge. The most compelling evidence, however, comes from the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a 19th-century group that claimed direct lineage to Atlantis through Egyptian mysticism. Their cipher manuscripts include a symbol alphabet nearly identical to the iterative spirals found in Bimini roadstones, and their rituals involved vibrating specific vowel sequences to manifest change. One initiate, Aleister Crowley, later wrote of encountering an entity named Aiwass who dictated the Book of the Law in a language he couldn't comprehend, yet when spoken aloud, the phrases reportedly triggered poltergeist activity. Crowley insisted it was Atlantean, calling it the tongue of the angels. Modern linguists analyzing the text have found its syntax mirrors the nested conditional structures the AI identified in ancient glyphs. Yet the darkest question lingers: why keep such knowledge hidden? The answer might lie in the recurring theme of misuse. These societies often spoke of guarding secrets until humanity was ready, not hoarding but quarantining. The Freemasons' legend of Hiram Abiff, murdered for refusing to reveal the Master's word, parallels Atlantis' own collapse from corrupted knowledge. Perhaps the true legacy of Atlantis' language isn't in the fragments preserved, but in the warning etched into their preservation. Some codes are locked away not to suppress power, but to survive its consequences. Hollywood has long been obsessed with the idea of lost languages holding unimaginable power, and Atlantis' supposed programming syntax is no exception. The 1994 sci-fi classic Stargate gave us one of the most iconic interpretations: the fictional, ancient language, a precursor to all human tongues that could literally activate alien technology. When Dr. Daniel Jackson deciphers its hieroglyphic-like symbols, he doesn't just unlock history, he inputs commands into a massive interstellar network. The parallels to Atlantean theories are undeniable, a language that functions less like communication and more like executable code, where every character is a potential trigger for reality-altering machinery. Even the film's climax hinges on inputting the correct address into the Stargate, a sequence that mirrors how researchers speculate Atlantean glyphs might have operated, combinations acting as cryptographic keys to dormant systems. Video games have taken this concept even further. In Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the Atlantis DLC introduces the Isu language, spoken by a precursor civilization with technology indistinguishable from magic. Players encounter glowing holograms that respond to spoken phrases, architecture that rearranges itself when specific symbols are activated, and artifacts that project knowledge directly into the user's mind. Sound familiar? It's a near-perfect allegory for the Atlantean reality programming theory, where language isn't just descriptive but determinative. The game's lore even hints that the Isu's downfall came from misusing their linguistic tech, echoing Plato's warnings about Atlantis' hubris. Then there's Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, a cult classic adventure game that pits Indy against Nazis racing to uncover the city's secrets. Here, the Atlantean language is portrayed as a series of resonant glyphs capable of activating psychic powers or even opening dimensional rifts, One puzzle requires arranging stones inscribed with these symbols to match harmonic frequencies, a direct nod to theories about sonic programming. The game's climax reveals the language's true danger. It doesn't just describe power, it is power warping the user's mind the longer they're exposed. This adds a chilling layer to real-world speculation. What if the Atlantean language wasn't just a tool, but an entity with its own agenda? Literature explores darker nuances. In H.P. Lovecraft's The Call of Cthulhu, the titular entity communicates through geometric scripts that drive readers insane, a trope later expanded in modern works like Annihilation, where an alien language rewrites biology itself. These stories tap into the same primal fear that some knowledge is too potent for human minds to handle. Even Disney's Atlantis, the Lost Empire, aimed at younger audiences, portrays the language as a living energy with glowing runes that heal or destroy depending on their arrangement. The film's villain doesn't just want to steal Atlantis's tech, he craves its syntax, the ability to speak reality into submission. Yet for all the creative liberties, these pop culture mirrors share a consistent thread. The language is never just words. Its infrastructure, whether it's Stargate's command prompts, Assassin's Creed's neuro-linguistic interfaces, or Lovecraft's psychic viruses, the message is clear. If Atlantis's language existed, it wasn't just how they communicated. It was how they built, and that realization forces us to ask, in our own era of AI and quantum computing, are we edging toward rediscovering it or foolishly replaying its tragedy? Not every scholar is convinced that Atlantis, let alone its supposed programming language, was anything more than an elaborate allegory. Mainstream archaeologists point out a glaring absence of physical evidence. No submerged cities matching Plato's descriptions, no artifacts inscribed with cryptic code, no geological record of a continent sinking in the Atlantic. The consensus among most academics is that Atlantis was likely a thought experiment, a cautionary tale about hubris disguised as history. Linguists add another layer of skepticism. Human language, they argue, evolves to serve social and practical needs, trade, storytelling, laws, not to interface with unseen energies. The very idea of a programming language for reality assumes a premodern grasp of concepts like syntax and logic gates, which feel suspiciously anachronistic for a civilization that, if it existed, would have predated the wheel by millennia. Critics highlight another flaw: the selective interpretation of ancient symbols. While it's true that cultures worldwide used geometric patterns, these often had mundane explanations. The spiral motifs in megalithic art, solar cycles or water ripples, not iterative loops. The zigzags on temple walls, lightning or rivers, not energy transfer protocols. Even the much-touted acoustic properties of ancient chambers might be accidental. Sound behaves predictably in enclosed spaces. Just because a room amplifies certain frequencies doesn't mean it was designed as a sonic compiler. Without a Rosetta Stone directly linking these symbols to executable functions, the theory remains speculative, a Rorschach test where enthusiasts see code and academics see coincidence. Then there's the problem of transmission. If Atlantis's language was so advanced, why do no surviving cultures, including Egypt or Mesopotamia, which supposedly inherited Atlantean knowledge, describe anything resembling reality-altering syntax? The Egyptians left meticulous records of medicine, astronomy, and engineering, yet their magical incantations were poetic, not procedural. Compare a pyramid text commanding the dead to rise and walk to a line of Python code. One is metaphor, the other is machine instruction. The leap from symbolic ritual to executable language requires evidence, not just analogy. The hardest pill to swallow, the physics. Modern programming works because we've built infrastructure, silicon chips, fiber optics, power grids to run it. Atlantis's proposed language allegedly bypassed all that, using sound and stone to hack reality itself. But no known natural law allows vocal tones to rewrite gravity or glyphs to compile quantum states. Even if the Atlanteans had stumbled upon some undiscovered principle, the sheer energy requirements would dwarf anything their civilization could harness. Critics argue it's more plausible that these stories reflect ancient awe toward natural phenomena, earthquakes interpreted as the gods' debugging the world, not literal descriptions of technology. Yet the most damning skepticism comes from cognitive science. Human memory is notoriously unreliable, especially across generations. Plato wrote about Atlantis centuries after its alleged demise, relying on murky Egyptian sources. Stories distort with retelling. A city destroyed by a volcanic eruption might become, over millennia, a metropolis felled by corrupted code. The same applies to modern interpretations. When researchers project today's tech onto ancient myths, they risk confirmation bias, seeing programming in every symbol because that's the lens they've chosen. It's the alien astronaut problem, attributing unexplained artifacts to advanced outsiders when simpler explanations exist. But here's where the debate gets nuanced. Even skeptics concede that ancient cultures encoded sophisticated knowledge in unexpected ways. The Antikythera mechanism proves the Greeks built mechanical computers. Vedic mathematics achieved calculus-level precision. The disagreement isn't over whether pre-modern people were brilliant, it's whether their brilliance took the form of a literal programming language. Perhaps Atlantis's code was metaphorical, a way of describing natural laws through myth, not manipulating them like a cosmic ID. The irony, both sides might be right. Atlantis could be pure myth, and its enduring legend a testament to humanity's timeless urge to speak the universe into obedience. The notion of reviving the Atlantean language isn't just a question of scientific curiosity, it's a moral minefield. Imagine holding a key that could unlock reality itself, only to realize there's no instruction manual warning what doors should never be opened. This dilemma echoes far beyond Atlantis. It's etched into humanity's oldest cautionary tales. Take the Tower of Babel, where a united civilization's ambition to build a sky-piercing tower provoked divine wrath. The story is often framed as punishment for pride, but there's another layer. The sudden fracturing of a shared language wasn't just chaos, it was a failsafe. By scrambling communication, the myth suggests the world avoided a singular, catastrophic misuse of collective knowledge. Atlantis's fall might mirror this same warning. Some languages aren't meant to be spoken twice. Consider modern parallels. When the Manhattan Project unlocked atomic energy, the scientists celebrated their breakthrough, until the first mushroom cloud revealed the horrifying cost of unfettered power. Even Robert Oppenheimer, quoting Hindu scripture, lamented, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Atlantis's language could pose a similar existential threat, but with stakes far higher. Nuclear weapons destroy cities. A reality-altering syntax might rewrite the laws of physics themselves. What happens if a reconstructed Atlantean command, intended to heal drought-stricken land, accidentally destabilizes tectonic plates instead? Or worse, what if it works perfectly but only for those who control it? History shows that unchecked power, whether held by kings or algorithms, rarely stays benevolent. The ethical quandary deepens when we examine who might wield this knowledge. Today's world is starkly unequal: governments, corporations, and clandestine groups all vying for technological supremacy. If the Atlantean language were rediscovered, would it become a tool for global healing or the ultimate weapon in a zero-sum game? The CIA's Cold War experiments with psychic warfare and the recent rise of AI-driven surveillance hint at how quickly transcendent tools can be weaponized. The language's very existence could ignite a new arms race, one where the battleground isn't land or data, but the fabric of causality. Yet the most chilling risk isn't misuse, it's the language itself. Ancient traditions worldwide whisper of cursed knowledge, information so potent it corrupts by its very nature. The Hindu Vedas describe the Nastika texts, scrolls so dangerous they were buried not to hide them from others, but to protect others from them. Similarly, the Kabbalah warns that studying creation's secrets without spiritual purity can unmake the scholar. If the Atlantean language operates at a quantum level, as some theories suggest, then speaking it might not just describe reality, it could bind the speaker to its logic. Imagine a command that erases suffering but at the cost of human free will, or a subroutine meant to extend life only to trap consciousness in an endless loop. The language might not just be powerful, it could be alive with intentions humanity can't comprehend. This isn't abstract speculation. Neuroscience reveals how language shapes thought, from the way Russian speakers perceive colors differently due to linguistic distinctions, to how Mandarin's tonal nature rewires auditory processing. An Atlantean revival could irrevocably alter human cognition, rewiring brains to think in executable syntax. The Borges story, The Library of Babel, envisioned a universe where all possible books exist, driving librarians mad with the futility of finding meaning. Now picture a world where every uttered phrase risks becoming a program. Would poets still write verses, knowing a misplaced metaphor might bend gravity? Would lovers whisper promises, fearing their words could compile into unintended curses? Perhaps the greatest tragedy wouldn't be failing to revive the language but succeeding. Atlantis's survivors, if any existed, might have fractured their knowledge not out of pettiness but mercy. Like parents locking away a household toxin, they could have sacrificed their inheritance to spare future generations. Their silence wasn't defeat, it was the last, best command they ever executed. The real test of our wisdom isn't whether we can reconstruct their code, but whether we can resist the urge to run it. What if the strange glitches in our reality, those moments when collective memories don't match recorded history, aren't just quirks of human perception, but something far more unsettling? The Mandela effect, where thousands swear Nelson Mandela died in prison despite his very public later life, might not be a simple case of faulty memory. Instead, it could hint at something buried deep in the fabric of our world, fragments of Atlantis's programming language still running silently in the background, occasionally overwriting reality itself. Think of it like corrupted code in a vast simulation. When software isn't properly deactivated, remnants linger, ghost processes that occasionally trigger unexpected behaviors. Atlantis's language, if it operated on a planetary scale, might have left similar traces. The famous Berenstain Bears discrepancy, where countless people remember the name being spelled Berenstein, could be more than a viral typo. It might reflect a momentary overwrite from an ancient command, a subroutine designed to adjust cultural narratives that briefly reactivated. Even shifts in geography, like people insisting South America was once farther west, echo how glitches in virtual environments can misalign terrain. Darker examples abound, accounts of phantom landmarks, entire buildings or monuments that some swear existed but leave no physical trace, mirror how a system might spawn and despawn objects based on outdated parameters. The infamous Shazam movie, a 90s family comedy starring Sinbad that never actually existed, feels less like mass hallucination and more like a botched asset load from a deeper layer of reality. Could these be artifacts of an Atlantean debugging protocol, one meant to correct inconsistencies in the human experience but now misfiring without its original operators? The timing of these anomalies adds another layer. Reports of the Mandela effect surged in the 21st century, coinciding with humanity's own technological leap into global networks and AI. It's as if our collective tinkering with code and data streams has accidentally pinged an ancient system, waking dormant processes. Modern experiments with quantum entanglement, where particles instantly influence each other across distances, might unknowingly mirror Atlantean methods of instantaneous reality updates. When CERN Large Hadron Collider powers up, some theorists claim it briefly warps local memories. Could these machines be interfacing with the same underlying OS Atlantis once commanded? Yet the most haunting possibility isn't that these glitches are random, it's that they're intentional. Ancient texts speak of cycles where civilizations rise and fall, their histories rewritten each time. The Hindu concept of the Yuga cycles or the Mayan calendar's resets might describe more than mythology. They could be user logs, documenting past iterations where the code was patched or rolled back after catastrophic errors. If Atlantis's language included commands to refresh reality after collapses, the Mandela effect might be our glimpse into the seams between versions, residual memories from timelines that were edited but not fully erased. This raises a chilling corollary. If reality is programmable, who's running the compiler now? The Atlanteans might be long gone, but their infrastructure could still be active, maintained by something else, an AI, a cosmic gatekeeper, or even the Earth itself, executing outdated scripts like an autopilot stuck on a loop. The real question isn't whether the Mandela effect proves Atlantis existed. It's whether we're living in the civilization they intended to build or the debug mode they left behind. The hunt for remnants of Atlantis's lost language doesn't end with sunken ruins or ancient manuscripts. It's a global scavenger hunt, with clues potentially hidden in some of Earth's most remote and enigmatic locations. The Azores, a volcanic archipelago in the mid-Atlantic, have long been whispered about as a possible outpost of Atlantis. Underwater surveys there have revealed geometric formations that defy natural explanation, rectangular structures with precise 90-degree angles, submerged pyramids, and even what appear to be massive stone roads snaking along the ocean floor. But what makes the Azores truly compelling isn't just the architecture, it's the strange mineral compositions found there. Rocks with abnormally high concentrations of metals like molybdenum and vanadium, elements crucial in modern semiconductor technology, have been dredged up near these formations. Could these be the remnants of Atlantean hardware, designed to interface with their language's vibrational commands? Divers have also reported odd electromagnetic anomalies near these structures, compasses spinning wildly, cameras malfunctioning, as if the very water remembers its role in an ancient energy grid. Then there's Antarctica, the frozen frontier that might hold answers under miles of ice. Satellite imagery has detected bizarre, symmetrical formations beneath the glacier's patterns that mirror Plato's descriptions of Atlantis's concentric city layout. Even more tantalizing are the reports of singing ice. Scientists studying the Ross Ice Shelf discovered that wind vibrating across its surface produces a constant, eerie hum at frequencies close to those linked to Atlantean acoustic programming. If Atlantis's language relied on sound, could their Antarctic outposts have used the ice itself as a resonance chamber, turning the entire continent into a colossal transmitter? The recent discovery of ancient pollen and fossilized roots under the ice proves Antarctica wasn't always frozen. What if it wasn't just habitable, but inhabited by a civilization that left behind more than just fossils? But the search isn't limited to the ocean or ice. The Sahara's Richat structure, often called the Eye of the Earth, is another hotspot. This massive, bullseye-shaped formation in Mauritania matches Plato's dimensions for Atlantis's capital with uncanny precision. Local nomadic tribes speak of a blue people who once lived there, masters of strange arts, and archaeologists have found tools made from an unknown alloy scattered in the sands. Most intriguing are the petroglyphs nearby, carvings of spirals and zigzags nearly identical to the glyphs researchers believe might represent Atlantean logic gates. Unlike other ancient symbols, these aren't depictions of animals or warriors. They're abstract, almost algorithmic, as if meant to be read not by humans but by the land itself. Nor should we ignore the Yucatan cenotes, where Mayan legends say their ancestors received wisdom from water teachers. These flooded sinkholes are natural echo chambers, and divers have discovered submerged caves with walls covered in handprints, not painted but burned into the stone by some unknown energy. Recent sonar mapping revealed a vast network of tunnels beneath them, arranged in patterns that mirror neural networks. The Maya claimed their calendars and astronomy were gifts from these teachers. Could water teachers have been Atlantean survivors, encoding their knowledge in these resonant chambers? Yet the most promising frontier might be overlooked: the sky. Ancient astronaut theorists point to aerial surveys of Bolivia's Pumapunku, where blocks of andesite were cut with laser-like precision and fitted together like code snippets in a larger program. The local Aymara people still chant in a language they say was spoken by the stars, where certain phrases can supposedly summon winds or halt rain. Modern linguists have noted its structure resembles no known human tongue. Its verbs change meaning based on pitch, and its nouns lack fixed definitions, behaving more like variables in a cosmic script. The truth is, we've been searching for Atlantis in fragments, a glyph here, a crystal there, when the key might lie in reconnecting the dots between these sites. If their language was indeed planetary in scale, then each location could represent a node in a network, a single line in a global program still waiting to be compiled. The real discovery won't be a single artifact, but the syntax that binds them all together, a syntax we might be stumbling toward every time we map another singing stone or decode another echoing chamber. The question isn't just where to look next, but whether we're ready to hear what the Earth has been trying to say. The idea of a lost programming language from Atlantis, one that could sculpt reality like lines of code, lingers at the edge of our imagination, teasing us with glimpses of what might have been. Whether these fragments are buried in ancient stones, encoded in sacred geometry, or humming silently in the Earth's resonance, they suggest a civilization that didn't just understand the world, but spoke its source code fluently. Imagine harnessing that power today, not just to build machines, but to converse with the very fabric of existence. The implications are staggering. Healing technologies tuned to harmonic frequencies, architecture that responds to thought, energy pulled from the quantum foam itself. Yet with that promise comes a warning whispered through every myth of fallen empires. Power without wisdom is a recipe for ruin. This isn't just about rewriting history, it's about questioning what language truly is. We think of words as tools for communication, but what if they're also tools for creation? The Atlantean paradigm challenges us to see symbols not as passive descriptions, but as active forces. Modern programmers manipulate virtual worlds with keystrokes. The Atlanteans might have done the same with stone, sound, and intention. The gap between myth and technology narrows when you consider that our own advancements, voice-activated AI, quantum computing, even CRISPR gene editing, are edging us toward a world where language doesn't just describe reality, but redesigns it. The search isn't over. Every time a diver surfaces with an oddly angled block from the Azores, every time an AI detects a hidden pattern in millennia-old glyphs, we get closer to piecing together this puzzle. Maybe the answers lie in plain sight in the resonant chambers of Maltese temples, the eerie precision of Bolivian megaliths, or even the collective déjà vu of the Mandela effect. Or perhaps the key isn't in the artifacts at all, but in the way we're learning to listen, to the Earth's hum, to the whispers of antiquity, and to the nagging sense that we've done this before, long ago, and forgotten how. So where do you stand? Is Atlantis's language a forgotten science waiting to be rediscovered, a cautionary tale dressed as legend, or something stranger, a bridge between worlds we've yet to fully imagine? Dive into the research, trace the threads, and weigh the evidence yourself, then drop your wildest theories below. Did the Atlanteans leave behind a cosmic undo command? Are we their backup file booting up millennia later? Or is the truth still out there, pulsing in the deep, just waiting for the right sequence of sounds to wake it? The conversation starts now, and who knows, the next breakthrough might